This is like legitimately how Adam Driver sits in this movie. His arms are out of fucking control. That darn movie show. Hey guys, how's it going? It's Clarice here. Hope you've all had an excellent Easter. Yeah. If you celebrate Easter, if you don't, I hope you've just had a wonderful weekend. So the movie I went to see this week is something that I have been excited about for a really long time, and that is Noah Baumbach's While We're Young. I don't know if you guys saw his last movie, Frances Ha, but that movie means the absolute world to me. Like, I first saw it in 2012. I had just graduated from university. I had no idea what I was doing. I felt completely lost. I had no idea how I was like meant to function in the adult world, and I still don't, but that movie at least helped me to accept that feeling and show me that maybe I wasn't the only person in the world that felt that way, because I think that movie just so perfectly captures that feeling of being in your 20s and just feeling like the whole world has moved on without you. And I even remember when my BFF Elsa, who subscribers will know from my awards season videos, I remember when she first saw that movie and she just immediately sent me this all caps message being like, "This was so us!" And she was so right. So yeah, I was really excited about While We're Young, and not only did it turn out to be like completely amazing in itself, but it's also this sort of like perfect companion piece to Frances Ha. And you definitely don't have to see Frances Ha before seeing this movie. Like, don't worry about it. You can just enjoy this movie as its own thing for sure. But I do sort of think those two movies work perfectly together because they're essentially telling the same story but from the perspective of completely different generations. So like in Frances Ha, she just feels completely unprepared for adulthood, and she has all these dreams of becoming a dancer, and those dreams are sort of falling apart. At the same time, she's having to watch her best friend get into a serious relationship and sort of build her life without her. But then in While We're Young, we sort of get the same idea. There's this couple in their 40s, Cornelia and Josh, played by Ben Stiller and Naomi Watts, and they're having to watch their best friends move on in life without them, who they've just had a baby, and so they're sort of building their own life. And even at one point, Cornelia and Josh are sort of talking, and they realise that they both feel like children imitating adults, and I love that because that so seems like something Frances would say. And I loved that parallel. I think it's so cool how Noah Baumbach can write about completely opposing generations with such warmth and such understanding. And here you do get to see people in their mid-20s, but it's from the perspective of people in their 40s. And this movie at least suggests that from their perspective, people my own age seem to have their shit together, which I find perplexing. But here, like, Cornelia and Josh meet this younger couple, Jamie and Darby, played by Adam Driver and Amanda Seyfried, and they just see in them so much energy and spontaneity, and Josh especially is like obsessed with how they create everything, and meanwhile they feel like they're in completely suspended animation because they can't relate with people their own age because they don't have a baby. And so they start to believe that they can find people their own level in this younger couple. But obviously eventually they find all these sort of irreversible generational differences that can't be fixed, and the illusion of how the other generation lives is shattered for all. But I think what's nice about this movie is that Baumbach doesn't take the easy road of laying into hipster culture. He does something that's a lot more open and warm and understanding, because at least at first, like, Cornelia and Josh are in love with this way of life. So it's something a lot more balanced, and there's a really great montage, for example, where they like contrast the younger couple watching VHSs and like playing vinyls and playing board games with the older couple just obsessively using Apple products. So like watching Netflix on their Apple TV and listening to podcasts on their iPhone and playing games on their iPad. And it's great because it sort of points out the irony of people like hating on hipster culture for obsessively living in the past, when maybe it's not that much better to be obsessively living in the present. Like, either way, it is a fashion and it's a trend. And it's great because everyone in this movie sort of gently comes under fire. Like, the hipsters go to this vaguely religious ceremony where you very seriously drink out of a vial of liquid in the hope that you'll come to some sort of profound conclusion about your life, when in reality you just go there to take drugs and vomit and listen to the love theme from Blade Runner on an iPod. And there's also this great line from Jamie where he is like, "Oh, I don't think I'm ever gonna die," which is such a perfect summary of like the arrogant idealism of youth. But then also the older couple are pretty idiotic too. Like, Josh buys this really stupid hat thinking it's gonna like grant him eternal youth, and like Cornelia really gets into hip-hop workouts with that sort of very white middle class idea that it's like it's very freeing. And then the friends with the baby even have this scene where they're like spouting out every cliche about having a baby ever. It's just like, "Oh, it's so pure. Oh, I fell in love immediately. Oh, it's just such a game changer." And just like hearing all those lines in one scene just makes you realize what a ridiculous cliche it is, but it's still things that every single new parent says ever. But I don't think Noah Baumbach's really out to laugh at anyone. This movie is more about just pointing out all these ridiculous like preconceptions and weird rules that every generation sort of places on itself. So it's really funny, but it's also incredibly perceptive, I think. And then there's this like whole subplot which is basically like drawing parallels between generational differences and the changing trends in documentary filmmaking. And it's basically all about the idea of authenticity, and Josh makes this really valid argument about the fact that now that we live in a world where everything is filmed, what exactly is a documentary anymore even? Which is crazy, because really recently there's this huge discussion about that documentary, The Jinx, which I haven't seen, but the argument was basically surrounding the fact that they had changed the order of certain events in that documentary to fit a particular narrative. And not to spoil too much, but something sort of similar happens in While We're Young, and the argument basically is, does that documentary now fail because it's no longer authentic, it's no longer truthful? That's Josh's view, that's sort of the old view of documentary filmmaking. Or does it even matter anymore when the sort of core ideas are still the same either way? And I think that sort of becomes the core struggle of this whole movie. It's about Josh and Cornelia realizing that the world has not waited around for them. The world has moved on. And I think the most interesting view in the whole movie is actually from Cornelia's father, who is also a documentarian, and he makes this speech which he ends with, "I still don't have all the answers." And I think that's another perspective from another generation entirely that has lived long enough to realize that it's okay to not have everything figured out, whether you are 25, 40 or 60 years down the line. But I think it is the acceptance of that fact that brings you that sort of peace with the world. So yeah, this movie is just so warm and so funny and insightful, and I would 100% recommend it to you guys. Frances Ha as well, if you haven't seen it already. And just especially if you have ever felt out of place in the world, if you've ever felt like you were a child imitating an adult, and this is just one of those beautiful movies that will let you know that you are not alone in the world. So yeah, if you've had a chance to see While We're Young, I would love to know what you guys thought. You can let me know by commenting down below, or you can tweet at me as well. I will leave all that information down in the description box. And also, if you liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so we can share our love of movies day and night. And I will see you guys soon. Bye!